Today, we're going to be doing something that many Z owners do. We're going to be filling in these ugly side marker holes. Stick around. What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to Block Garage. I'm Brian, and like I mentioned, today we're going to be deleting these side marker holes here. It's a very popular mod for these Z cars because the side markers on these cars, honestly, are not very good looking. And there's a few companies that sell panels already cut out the right size to fit these holes, and you can go and just weld them in. I'm going to make mine out of a piece of sheet metal. It's going to take a little bit more time than using those prefab panels, but it's still doable. And I'm not going to say this is going to be an easy one because that gets me in trouble every week. So we're just going to jump right into it. Well, the first thing we're going to do, since we just got a rough shape here, is just stick this in behind there, trace it out, and then we can cut out the right shape. Then we got our outline on here. As you can see, I put this bottom edge right on there, so that eliminates one more edge we gotta cut. I probably could have measured and originally cut this out to the exact right outside dimensions, but this is just as easy. So we gotta cut that out, get it the right shape. One thing I did do before I even stuck it in the bag is I put a slight curve on it this way, because that's sitting on the inside of the quarter panel and that is slightly curved. It's not perfectly flat, so if we put a little bit of a curve on it just to try and match that, it'll lessen the amount of body filler we got to use later. But yeah, we got to cut this out. And by the way, in the last video, I was looking for a rust-free gas door. Well, I found one going from Spellbound Motorsports out of California. He sent it to me. Got it 2 days later, and that's all the way across the country because I'm in Maine, so it came pretty quick. But now we don't have to worry about any rust on here, and maybe somebody will want this if they want to fix it up. But anyways, let's get to cutting that out. There we go, got it all in there, fitting nice. Just had to do a little bit of shaping around the edges, just a touch, just grind off a little bit just to make it fit perfect. But it's in there now, so we're all ready to weld it in. Like I mentioned, you can get these from a couple companies. I know Skillard sells them, I believe. If you want to save a little bit of time, go ahead. But if you got sheet metal lying around, my opinion, you might as well just do this. It doesn't take long to get that fitting exactly how you need it, and it's cheaper. So anyways, we're gonna get that welded in, but don't forget, guys, we got merch for sale. T-shirts, hats, coffee mugs, a bunch of different stuff. It's blockgarage.myspreadshop.com. Check that out. I make a couple bucks off everything you buy. Not a lot, but everything helps support the build. Enough of that. Let's get going and welding this in. And right now, you want to do everything you can to try to get these panels lined up. The better job you do now, the better results you're gonna have. Now I'm not sure if you guys will be able to see it or not, but right here my panel actually sunk down a little bit behind the quarter panel. I'm going to attempt to tap this corner back out with a hammer and dolly from the back side. We will see if it works. And like I mentioned, the more time you spend right now trying to get this fit good, the better your results will be at the end. It is much better now. Just a couple taps on the back side and it popped right back out. Just make sure you use your dolly because you don't want to push the whole panel out. I got a little bit right here on the end that it's sunk down. I can't get in there with the hammer, so I think the little bit that it is, not gonna worry about it. Let's get this thing fully welded in. Just like all the other panels, we need to use a lot of air to cool each time we weld down. That keeps a lot of the heat out of the panel. It cools it right down, keeps it nice and cool, and reduces warpage. It makes it take a lot longer, but again, the longer you take with this stuff, the better your results will be. So when you're welding sheet metal, you don't want to just sit here and go bam, 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 right along, because that again will increase the warpage. Just because you're putting a lot of heat in one area, not a lot of heat in the other side, makes an imbalance and it warps a lot. So what you want to do is you want to tack right beside this one, skip down here maybe, tack right beside that one, maybe over here, cooling it after each one, and kind of go random around. That way you keep all your welds spaced out as much as possible, keep the heat dispersed as much as possible, and again, cool each weld down. That way you keep the heat out of the panel so it doesn't get overheated. Other than that, just take your time. Especially when you get bigger panels on this old thin sheet metal that go right across the body, like when I replaced the lower quarter here. I really took my time, did a handful of welds and then went and did something else for 10, 15, 20 minutes, came back, did some more. That way I knew that I wasn't putting too much heat into this, and it came out very well. So we're gonna use that same technique on this panel. We'll do a handful, and we'll be cooling it after each one, space our tacks out, and not rush, take our time, and hopefully we can do this without warping everything. There we go, guys. Got it all welded in. Was pretty easy like I figured. Just took our time, went slow, kept it cool, and it wasn't even warm once we got done. That's how you keep it from warping too much. I'm sure there's a little bit. You always get a little bit of warpage when you're heating sheet metal like that. But now we got to grind that down. So for anybody who hasn't been watching the videos, what I like to do is use a cutoff disc to grind off most of the weld. just go like this, work it around. Don't get all the way down to the sheet metal because you don't want to gouge into it. It's easy to go too much with this, you know, because this is really meant for cutting. And then once we get it down most of the way with this, then we swap over to a little sanding disc. And the reason we do that is, one, because it's quicker, but two, because with the sanding disc, when you're on here, like let's pretend this is a sanding disc, not a cutoff disc. When you're on here, it's very easy to start grinding down outside this sheet metal, and especially the old sheet metal is very thin. You do not want to grind too much so that you make that too thin or even go through. I have done that. I struggled a lot with that. The first custom panel I made, which was the firewall over there, that really kicked my ass. So yeah, we'll get this ground down, smoothed out, and this panel should be done. And that's what we want to do right there. Take it down most of the way, but not quite all the way. You can see there's still a little lip on that, and we will, I don't know if it's focusing, looks like it's not, but that's what we want to do right there, is grind that down most of the way, and then we can finish it off with the sanding disc. Got a sanding disc on here, so we're going to take that and we're going to smooth that out and see how good we did. And I've been using these 2-inch sanding discs. I do have small 1-inch ones and some 3-inch ones, but I have found I prefer the 2-inch ones the best. I feel like I have the most control and flexibility with them, but sometimes I'll bust out the other ones when it's a little bit easier and they fit better. All right, now I do want to take a second and step back, and we're going to try something else. So you can see I've started grinding the weld down, but I am hitting here and here, and that is because where we've welded is lower. It's like a valley right there now. And that's because when you weld, you get your two panels flat, and then you heat it up, and they expand a little bit, and then they contract, and they push together like that. That happens every time you weld. So the good idea right now is to, whenever you can, grab a hammer and a dolly, and just tap along that weld from the back side, and you should be able to straighten that back out, pull it back out. That way you don't have to get in there and really grind that weld down or take off a ton of material on your sheet metal, which you don't want to do, especially on this old thin stuff that these Datsuns use. So I'm going to grab the hammer and the dolly, and I'm going to try and tap that out the best I can. So we're not quite done grinding, but I got it pretty smooth. You can see we didn't get it perfectly level all the way around, but honestly this is plenty good enough that you'd smooth that out with some body filler and nobody would ever know it's there. But we got some pinholes like here, 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 here. It happens with MIG welding. It's not that big of a deal. We're just going to take our welder, we're going to put a little spot weld on there and grind it back down, and it'll be gone. Got it all smoothed out, looking pretty good. It's not perfect, as you can see. I still got a little bit offset right there where I didn't get the panel exactly aligned. But overall, fits very well. Plenty good enough that we'll be able to smooth it out with some body filler later when it's time. I'm not good enough and foolish enough to think that I can get this stuff perfect. I am certainly not an expert at this, although I've been getting a lot better since we started with the project. But like I said, it's good enough for us to move on. I am going to do the other 3, but I'm not going to record it, anything like that. I'll just skip through it and do it off camera. I mean, it's the exact same process. But while we're right here, we got this hole here for where the power antenna came up through. I'm not running that power antenna. To be honest, I don't know what I'm going to run for a radio antenna. I do need something for the radio because we don't have service around here to run, you know, Pandora, Spotify, whatever, off my phone all the time. So I do need a radio, but I'm not going to have an external antenna like what was here. What I'm most familiar with, Corvettes, they don't have an external antenna. They just got a wire basically that runs across the back of the car, and that's enough to pick up signal. I don't know if that would work with a metal body car because the Corvette's basically all fiberglass and or carbon fiber depending on which model you have. So that might affect it. I don't know. But it's honestly something that's way in the back of my mind I don't have to worry about right now. So we're gonna fill this hole in, and I'm just gonna say it. This should be very easy to do. Let's see. Look at that. We got something done, and it was actually easy. It's the first time on this whole car that I've said it's going to be easy, and it actually was. So yeah, we're done with this. This one's good. We got our hole filled in here. I do still need to do the other 3. Like I mentioned, I'll do that sometime off camera. I don't know if I'll have time to get it done today. I imagine this is going to be a shorter video. Like I mentioned, I don't have a lot of time this weekend, but still got time to get out in the garage and make some progress. So any progress is a good thing. But we are really close to putting this thing back down on the ground and starting the 2JZ swap and some other stuff we got to do. Like back here, I mentioned a couple videos ago, I can't really do that while it's on the lift, and we got to fix some stuff down here and smooth out the rear and everything because we took that ugly bumper off and all that stuff. Other than that, the car's coming along great. Let me know what you think about this video and the work we did here. You know, leave a comment below. But anyways, I'm gonna end this one off here. I'll go fill those other 3 holes up myself, and I hope you come back for the next video.